All right, so 11.1 shows you what we're doing with these factored pieces of information. So technically what is going on is when you factor this quadratic, it is, it looks like this. Let me draw on here. It's either going to look like this or it's going to look like this on a coordinate grid. Okay, so what happens is when you are finding, when you are factoring these, you are finding out where it hits the x-axis on, where the equation hits the x-axis, and it should hit in two places, okay? There are going to be situations where it won't hit at all, and we'll talk about that later, but for right now, these are all going to hit on a specific x-axis, two places. And you can actually put this in, I don't know you guys, if you've used Desmos, in, you can put them in your graphing calculator, and you can also put them in Desmos, and I'll show you how to do both of those. But what you're trying to do is solve to figure out what are the two places that this parabola quadratic is located on the x-axis. So if you see here on this first example, notice how the 36 is not with the rest of them. It's all by itself over here. Okay, we need to get it moved over so it looks like what we've been working on. The only thing that's changing here is we've got an equal sign. So when you move that over, the 36 on the right side becomes a 0, and then you're going to factor these two. So this is exactly what we were just doing, factoring it down, and then you're going to solve each one individually. So then they take x plus 9 and set it equal to 0, and they get negative 9. And then the x minus 4, set it equal to 0, and they get positive 4. So what that tells me is the parabola crosses the x-axis at negative 9 and at positive 4. That's what you're getting out of this. So I'm going to do a fresh one. Let me see, step by step with you.
So you always change it to a negative?
If you move it to the other side. If it was positive and you move it to the other side.
Drop out a line out of the equal sign.
Correct.
And add a 0.
And move it over. Yep. Now, if it's already negative, when you move it to the other side, it'll be positive.
Okay.
Okay? So here's an example. Notice it's not on the right side, so we're going to get it moved over. So we have x squared plus x minus 12. We're going into our factor mode. We have x and x. How can I get negative 12 when I multiply, but get positive 1 when I add? What two numbers will let me do that?
Wait, 3 and 4.
There you go, 3 and 4. According to this, what does the 4 have to have with it? Positive, okay? So the 4 is larger. The middle term sign tells us what to put with the larger term, okay? And so we then take x minus 3 and set it equal to 0. And then we take x plus 4 and set it equal to 0. So it crossed, the parabola crossed the x-axis on the coordinate grid at 3 and negative 4. These are also referred to as roots. You may hear them as roots or you may hear them as zeros. Those terms are used interchangeably, roots and zeros, which is where, again, this particular equation hits the x-axis when you graph it. All right, so quadratic formula. If all else fails, let's say you are doing this and you just can't for the life of you come up with the factors that you need, this is your go-to. It takes longer, but you'll get the answer, okay? So A is the coefficient that's with the x squared term, B is the middle term, and C is the constant without a variable, okay? So this equation, I'll always give it to you if you need it. Basically, you take your equation and you plot the numbers in there that correspond. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. If we have x squared minus 7x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, so again, it has to be set equal to 0. So if the 4 had been on the other side, we need to get it moved over. All right, they all have to be there together. So here is A, here is B, and here is C. All right, and I'm going to plug those into the equation. Here's the tricky part. The equation has a negative in the front for the b, so it needs to stay there. You don't have to do all of this. I'm doing it just to teach it to you, to keep everything nice and organized. Let's see, what's with my x is a 1, right? What is going on? My phone, sorry. A 1, and then c is 4. So there's everything plugged in to the equation. And then we're just going to do the math. And we're going to have two equations. And we're going to have two equations because of this thing right here, the plus minus. We're going to do it once with plus, and we'll do it once with minus. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. All right, so if we plug and chug, as I like to say, minus a negative is going to be positive 7, plus or minus the square root. If we do 7 squared, that's going to be 49, minus 4 times 1 times 4, so 4 times 1 times 4 would be negative 16, or 16. And then 2 times 1 is just 2. And then we go over here, 49 minus 16 is going to give us what? 49 minus 16 over 2, 33. Ew. Now why did it do that? That's ugly. Okay, so not something that's going to come out even, right? Because we don't have an even square root of 33. So we can do this one of two ways. You can write the answer as 7 plus the square root of 33. Whoops, and it's not or, it's and. And 7 minus the square root of 33. That's weird. Okay. I'm going to get one that will come out even so you can see what happens when you have just regular numbers too. These would be fractional numbers, decimal numbers, and not whole numbers. That's this. When you get that square root of 33 like that, you're going to have, it should be about 5 point something or other, 5.7 or something. So you won't have an even whole number with this one. All right, let me show you one that will come out with positive whole numbers, or I shouldn't say positive, just whole numbers. They'll come out with whole numbers. Okay, so again, here's my B, here's my A, here's my C, and so it's minus B plus or minus B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. Again, you don't have to do all the parentheses that I did. I just do it to keep things organized, especially if there are negative numbers involved. Okay, so I'm going to have negative 5 plus or minus 25 plus 4 times 14 is 56 over 2. And 56 plus 25 is 81, so minus 5. Square root of 81. Oh, we like square root of 81 because that turns into 9. 5 plus or minus 9 over 2. And here's where you'll want to split it out. Minus 5 plus 9 divided by 2. Minus 5 minus 9 divided by 2. And that would leave me 4 over 2 here, so 2. And this would leave me negative 14 over 2 here, which would leave me negative 7. So this equation crosses the x-axis at 2 and negative 7. So those would be the answers for the equation.